Three, two, welcome to the iRacers Lounge. I'm your host, Mike Ellis. iRacers Lounge is a podcast for the iRacer where we talk all things iRacing in a casual setting. Joining me are the usual characters, David Hall.
Yeah, that's me.
All right, Greg Hectus.
What's up, everybody?
Bobby Jonas.
Hello, hello.
Brad Wren.
Hey, everyone.
Donnie Spiker.
Afternoon, fellas.
And William Westbrook.
Good evening.
On today's show, we close out the 2025 Season 1 and get ready for Build Week. See what size wheel you should buy. If you need a sim coach, we have one for you. Which is the most realistic GT3 in iRacing? Find out what Asetek's huge news is and who is Max Verstappen putting in his GT3 car.
That's right, Mike. And remember that you can follow along with us on your PC or your mobile device in real time as you listen to the show and see for yourself all of the great topics and products we'll discuss by visiting iRacersLounge.com. Select the show notes. We hope to see you there.
The first item we have on the news is a post from iRacing Official on Instagram, as well as a video, and they're doing some updates to the UI, the official series page. So I watched the video, and I'm already fuzzy on it, but there's a few updates on here. The biggest thing that I wonder is, are you losing, or have they fixed all the things that were still missing from the original website? But there's some pretty neat features they've added in here.
Yeah, a tool where you can see which splits or which time of days are most populated. Look, if you're looking for a SOF race, or just trying to find you're in a series maybe that doesn't go official and you're trying to figure out when does it go official, they have a tool for that now.
That is a good improvement.
There were some other graphs. What was the other graph for?
I don't remember the other graphs, but you can see it's a little bit easier to see the results of all the splits on the results page now. They haven't made the change that Brad wants to see yet.
The other graph was the participation, so average number of drivers. And what am I looking for? What do I want?
GT3 is actually showing their relatives.
Yes, that would be nice. Since there are sometimes 3 different races going on all at the same time.
You know, when you look at the visuals they're providing here, what I see is a lot of information on the same page. You got a 2/3, a section taken 2/3, and there's another third on the right with various information. And so it looks like they're just trying to get more information in one spot. The other thing is, I noticed in the current UI, when you click on a series or something, it does like a pop-out window look, you know, that has an X up in the corner. Well, it doesn't do the pop-out look anymore. When you click the series, it goes to its own full screen page, so to speak.
Yeah, that's good, because the more information you have on one page, the fewer clicks you have.
I just hope that they have fixed the issue where the filters, like on the standings page, would actually save. It's aggravating having to use the companion app to look at your standings, because you don't want to have to go in through the UI and have to readjust the filters every single time.
Also, why do you have to pick your default car every single time when you didn't on the website?
Yeah, you set the a favorite or default, whatever it was.
Yeah, I star the car that I want to run, but it still makes me pick it every single time.
It doesn't matter.
I only own one Cup car, and it still makes me pick it.
There's definitely some work to do in the stats side of stuff for sure. And I don't know that we've seen anything in what they've presented to us that they've actually made changes to that. This is more of a look and feel kind of change.
All right, this next is maybe just a sarcasm tweet of some sort, and I don't know that it always happens this way, but some of it makes sense. It's a tweet from Kevin at K or at K King Style. Life of the in or the next gen road tire. Lap one death. Oh, so it's road tire. This makes more sense. Lap one death. Lap two slightly better. Lap three best grip. And then laps 4 through 10 slowly lose grip. Lap 11 through 20, right front is gone, no turn. I don't really go through that. 21 through 25, weight is starting to turn again. And 26 through 50, 5 tenths faster to the end. And yeah, this kind of sort of does happen because the car is getting lighter.
Well, I think it's more of a joust on the road tire in next gen being broken. I mean, isn't it? Is it broken or not? I mean, why is it that we never take tires in a road race?
Well, as I've said before, they don't feel like they're actually in the track at all. I swear they feel like they're 60-pound pieces of plastic, and it's all you do is just bounce. There's no grip at all.
Quite frankly, it's not just road races. There's a lot of tracks you can probably skip getting tires at in favor of track position.
I think you said a term, Brad, this week that the car wasn't down in the track.
Yeah, that's the problem, and it doesn't make sense if the next gen car is based off it's basically a very heavy sports car. Well, it's got to be a tire issue because you can get in any of the sports cars and you feel like the cars feel like the tire is in the track more than what the next gen is. It just literally just feels like it's sliding across.
You did watch the Murad video that we're about to cover, right? Because he said the same thing about some of those cars.
I agree, but they at least they feel like there's some adhesion to the road. And the next gen, it doesn't feel like. I mean, I don't think on the stock car side, even the Xfinity car does not feel like there's any adhesion between the tires and the road ever.
Isn't the patch bringing up a new tire model for the Cup car?
Yeah, we get V10, but I don't know if that's just. We obviously have two different. There's got to be two different models of tires because you can't tell me that the oval tire is the same as the road tire in the game, physics wise.
Oh, I guess we'll find out. All right, this next post, Mike, is an iRacing community post. Is this generated or real?
Well, we have a post on the Facebook group iRacing Community from Hunter McCall. He said, drove the old hot rod to O'Reilly's and didn't have to explain why the engine is a 69 Camaro 355. The body is an 87 Monte Carlo. The rear end is Ford 9-inch. And the transmission is a 3-speed out of a 70 C10. Take a guess what track map this is. So he's got a screenshot of the 87 car sitting in front of a O'Reilly's Auto Parts. No, I couldn't figure out what track he took this shot at.
So he's been putting up pictures in our Discord as well, isn't he?
He has. He made this cool shot of an iRacers lounge car sitting in front of a liquor store or something, and then on the sign it says, Sim Gaming Expo, September 4th through 7th, and iRacers Lounge going or something like that. It has our logo. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, he did the same. He posted another one today with a speedway version of it. Yeah, I don't know where this is at. It's I don't know. I just can't think of where you could be outside of the track to roam around at.
Yeah, I always go flying around the track, going outside the track, looking around. Certainly, I've seen storefronts, but I haven't ran across an O'Reilly's. My guess, Brad, this is a dirt track, and I don't usually go to dirt track.
So it's funny that description of his car make is literally a Frankenstein.
As most, I would say, local cars are. I mean, when I raced, it was called a Pro 6 category. It was a tube frame built chassis, but we ran a Nissan 300ZX motor. We ran a Ford Pinto rear end. So it was all basically designed where you could go to the junkyard and get all the parts that you needed outside of building the body to do it. So yeah, that's pretty common on short track stuff. Lots of Ford rear ends are run, regardless of what the make was.
Yeah, the joke there is too that when you go into a parts store for that, they always ask you what the make and model is because they don't know how to look at anything up outside of that way.
One more note on this one. I was telling a friend of mine that some people get into iRacing and they do other things besides race. This guy is like all happy to do cool screenshots and modify them, and that's his thing. You know, he's doing that. And then there's other people that paint. They come in and they don't really race. They paint cars, you know. And so, yeah, so they're, you know, iRacing is for everybody.
All right. Well, one of the cars, I guess, that's been around since almost the beginning is being retired, right, Bobby?
The Legends Coupe,
Mm-hmm.
I believe that it has been around since the beginning, has it not?
Yeah,
It was the
first
rookie,
car.
It was the rookie car.
Yeah,
back
I
in
mean,
the day.
yes, that was the first car you drove. It's gonna be sad to see it go. It's not the only one though. The old Bush car is going away too, so we're starting to see some of the older cars kind of get moved out. Does that mean we get new ones coming?
Well, this is kind of a weird announcement because the Legends Ford 34 Coupe is being removed to be replaced by the Legends Ford 34 Coupe. So it's just an update, right?
So the original one's being removed, and we're getting an updated version. That's it's kind
There's
of
not going to be a
misleading.
retired version, in other words.
Yeah, it's kind of a misleading topic then, right?
Well,
It's a little tricky, but they're having some kind. Are they having some kind of party for it?
no, but I mean, what they let you know is that any, replays and all that stuff, once the car goes into retirement or it's stopped, I mean, replays will not load or anything. So, it's going to be completely replaced.
I feel like we're seeing that more and more here lately.
Well, there comes a point when if they have so many cars to maintain, it's kind of the same situation you might run into with a car that's breaking down so much that it's less expensive to buy a new one, right? There is a point when the old models just have to kind of be grandfathered out instead of kept up with the new models, and because if they try to keep one going, they have to make it work on every track. They have to update the tire model, update the damage model. It ends up being spending too much time on that instead of working on other things.
Yeah, it looks like also one of the reasons they're doing it this way is because this was before my time, but I guess you could not have fixed and open setups on the same car at the same time, so you had to have a different actual file for each of them. So I guess that makes sense why they're just completely doing away with it.
Yeah, I mean that is one of the original cars. I'm sure they have completely restructured how they do all their work on the back end on them.
All right. The next post, Donnie, is an update on if a car goes away, I guess. What kind of money are you going to get back?
Yes, sir. We have an update from Greg West. Says with the highly anticipated release of Season 2, there are quite a few notable changes coming down the pipe. Starting with the car content and specifically the ARCA update, they're going to get an ARCA, all three of them, the ARCA Chevy, the ARCA Ford Mustang, ARCA Toyota. And speaking of if you get any money back, they said if you bought the ARCA car within the last 180 days, you're going to get a full credit because that car, the current ARCA car is getting removed from the ARCA series, and they're going to keep it for the Gen 4 series. And then there's a list. If you bought it within 180 to 210 days, you get 75% and so on. But sounds like we're getting Gen 4 next season, so they're going to keep the Gen 4 series currently with the current car they have for it now.
Yeah, and the next vehicle was the BMW M2, CSR, currently only available at the rookie level. It will be moving into the new BMW M-Power Challenge with open setups, as well as replacing the BMW M4 F82 GT4 2018 in the Production Car Challenge. As there was already a credit program for the BMW M4 and that is being replaced by a free car, no additional credits will be given.
So also a lot of series updates as well. They're going to increase the frequency. Many of the series this season, a lot of the rookie races will go to every 15 minutes, but alternating them. And then also for this upcoming season, some of the oval sports car and formula series are going to go to every 15 minutes as well. And then the frequency on some of those like Draftmaster, Ferrari GT3, Toyota GR Cup, and all the F4 FIA series, with the exception of the opens, will go to every 30 minutes. So they're going to reduce the races by 2 laps to allow back-to-back racing, and then also moving from every 2 hours to hour. NASCAR Gen 4, IndyCar Series Oval and Fixed, Ringmeister, and then the NASCAR 87 Legends Cup. So I don't know. I don't know what that's going to do for participation. But
Me and David and Joe were just having a discussion earlier about, if you have the time during the day to run more races, well, there you go. You just can cram twice the amount in now.
But wait, to Brad's point, so races that were every 2 hours are now, lots of them are hourly, and then ones that were hourly are now every half hour. And then, like, for example, the FIA F4 was 20 minutes. They made it 15 so people can get into other races quicker. I think it's going to really hurt participation because it's going to spread the same head count that is normally there into different events instead of getting all these people grouped into the same event.
I think the other thing it's going to do is people are going to practice less. They can just hop right into a race regardless of time on track.
yeah, that's a good point. I didn't think about that, Bobby.
Well, now that you bring that up with this, will that actually make Mike practice more?
Or the
No,
argument
less. I don't know. I don't like it. I look, it might make sense on some of the series, but there's a lot of changes here where they're just basically doubling the amount of races per day.
Well, the good thing is
we rush. Go ahead, Brad.
I was going to say, well, the good thing is, according to the new series page, we'll be able to see when the most racers are racing.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I personally like the long form series, so I'm never jumping at any of these anyway.
Yeah, I don't know. Some people in the Discord I'm in were absolutely convinced it's going to kill participation in some of these. But if you listen to Greg and them, they said that they've tried it in other series and it didn't have a noticeable effect. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Personally, I think it will be good. There's nothing worse than missing a race you want to get in by 2 minutes and then having to wait another 2 hours.
I hope some nerd measures it, like takes some screenshots of where we're at today before the change and where we at a few weeks from now, and which way did it go?
Well, we've looked at some of those websites where they actually track what all of the participations over a season. So I got a bookmark somewhere. So that's something we ought to be able to follow back up on, Mike.
I imagine in a season if they go back to the old times.
All right, one of the things that is coming out that we've talked about and previewed previously is the GT Physics and Update, or tire update. Greg Rest put out a video, or iRacing put it out, but it was narrated by Greg. And he discusses how much harder the cars are going to be to drive, especially at the beginning, and that if you abuse the tires, it could actually affect your entire run. He made an interesting point that I don't remember noticing this point because I didn't have a stopwatch when I was watching live at the 24, but he pointed out that on the first lap, usually the LMPs were not going any faster than the GT3s.
That's correct.
Especially in the corners.
And they were actually having to lift on the
Kink.
the kink. And, you know, I ran a couple of spas today, and on the first lap, I would usually going up a rouge, I would actually lift just a little because it could snap, and I was seeing people snap there all the time. So that'll probably be even more exaggerated. And I'm sure you can't make everybody happy. Some people are gonna hate it, and I'm probably gonna struggle with it, but I don't think I'm gonna hate it.
Look, it's not my car. And as I watch the video and hear Greg say how everything's more like more like a real car, more like a real time, you know, at a particular track, more like the real car in the corner speed and so forth. And so what's going through my head is, how does the car get so out of whack to begin with? Aren't these cars supposed to be dialed in when we get them and have the right, you know, speeds in the corner and have the right brake, you know, tires and everything? I mean, why are we having to adjust these after the fact, and how are they so out of whack to begin with?
I mean, in fairness to iRacing, tire compounds in racing are always a moving target, no matter what series you're in. They're always getting changed or updated, or new manufacturers coming in to do tires. It's going to be a never-ending chase.
Yeah, they admitted after the last update that they broke it. I mean, it was just broken. They didn't catch it. I mean, we talked about this. I mean, we complained about what's the quality control? Who's testing this? I mean, anybody went out and could have seen you were running, I don't know, what was it, 10 miles an hour quicker in the corner or something? I mean, it was crazy, the speed difference after the tires. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to watch the forums and watch everybody lose their mind when they say that it's unrealistic now.
I can't wait.
Yeah, like I said, we'll be 60 minutes into it, and it'll already be screaming for it to go back to the way it was. Because I will say this season has been somewhat miserable as a GT3 driver, because the GTPs are just way too fast, and it's to me it's made it much more difficult trying to handle them, especially in some of high speed corners, because it's just too much grip.
All right, I don't ever run AI, but we've talked a little bit about the adaptive AI, and that's what this next video is. And Mike's raising his hand, so Mike, go for it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. I mean, my problem with AI all along has been I can never dial in the correct difficulty for the AI drivers that is a good match for me and how I run it. I'm either outrunning them or they're outrunning me, and I can't find that little. And to change it is a hassle. I mean, you have to leave the entire session, adjust it, and then relaunch again. Well, with this new adaptive AI, the AI cars will basically adapt to what I'm doing, making this a non-issue for me, basically. And I used AI just Tuesday night before the Phoenix race, just to put the set in the car, go around the track a few times, make sure everything's working. Not really practice, but it more like a plug check, maybe.
That sounds like practice, and it actually sounds like better practice because you've got traffic. Because driving around on an empty track doesn't tell you much about what the car is really going to do.
Yeah, I think I mentioned last week or whenever they announced this. I mean, we had this in NR 2003, when you could set the AI to where it would learn and it would change as you race. So it's not something new. It's just they've never had it. I don't use AI. I think the only time I'll ever fire anything up is if I've done something graphics wise and I want to try to stress the system out and see what it does. It's about the only time I ever do anything with AI.
I've basically replaced Chat or Google with Chat GPT. It's just easier to find things on it.
I've replaced Google with Grok.
It's a better search engine.
Oh yeah, you just talk to it and it talks back. It's pretty cool.
If you go to Google, you just get bombarded with ads and links that don't have anything to do with it, and you got like 1,000 links. So that part of it's definitely working better. It's definitely a good tool. It sounds good if you're running the adaptive AI. I miss when we had enough people on at the same time that we could do pit parties. But we all tend to run our A opens at different times because like we have lives. All right, Will, why don't you take the one talking about racing with Raja?
Raja. Yeah, so it looks like he's launching a program for schools. Raja Karuth. He's partnered with a whole bunch of companies. If you look at the third picture in his Twitter posts or X posts that he did. But yeah, he's gonna do a STEM curriculum. It looks like that schools can purchase and teaches about the basics and the physics of race cars and materials and how to be fast. Even has some AI stuff in there for what we were just talking about. I think it'd be cool. Nothing like this was available when I was in school. I know that it made me super happy when I was a little kid.
Yeah, pretty neat effort from Microsoft and STEM and whatnot, and using Raja to be the face of it, to be the star of the program. I just saw Raja today. He streams on TikTok his iRacing, so he's on iRacing during the week, and go find him on TikTok.
All right. So the next topic, I didn't look over either. Brad, so can you just tell me why you named it as Cletus here?
So I had a forum post from Clyde Coleman saying, "Who would like to try Crown Vics on iRacing?" He says, "And now for something completely different, I would buy it." And then somebody chimed in, "No thanks, Cletus." So Cletus McFarland, YouTuber, owns a racetrack, and I guess has kind of come to fame racing Crown Victorias. So that was why I named it that. Just because somebody had said that in the forum thread. So
yeah, I was wondering if it was in reference to him because he was just on Junior's show a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, so I have no desire to race a Crown Vic. My parents owned one. I had to drive it when I was 16, so it was really fun picking up my girlfriend in a Crown Victoria, navy blue.
I've spent some significant time driving a Crown Vic. That thing is a tank. It's a lot of fun, but I would not want it on the service for any reason.
Well, wait a minute. So, based on what I heard on the Dale Jr. download, Cletus has bought these, Crown Vics for $900 each, and he has 20 of them or something. And he's raced them not only at his racetrack he owns, but they've taken it on a circuit, Brad. They've gone to other tracks, 5 or 6, I think he named off, and basically they'll bring drivers in. The car's all ready. They don't really prepare them. They just jump in them and go. Anyway, since it's being raced officially on more than one track, maybe we should have them in iRacing.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything official about those races, but if you watch some of the videos, I'm not sure how insurance buys off on those.
Everybody signed a waiver.
Waivers can take you so far.
So if we're going to do this, then we also need to come up with a Lemons series.
Yeah.
You could probably do that with the mini stocks if you wanted to.
Do you think there's a demand for having cars that aren't used in officials, but just open to league settings like that?
A small demand. There are some leagues that like to jump around on a lot of the weird cars. I used to run with a league called the Reddit League, and they would pick just about any free combination car, kind of like the hosted races that Mike does. They just do a bunch of weird combinations and run them.
It'd be interesting to see if what the statistics were of what the actual usage is of some of the legacy cars that we have.
All right, William, this one's got to be right up your alley. We have a 2025 entry from Verstappen.com for GT car.
Yeah, they're going to enter Verstappen.com is going to sponsor a car for the GT World Challenge. And one of the guys racing is actually Team Redline driver Chris Ullum. So he's going to make the jump from sim to reality. That'll be pretty cool. It's a great looking car until you just puke the Red Bull all over it. That poor Aston.
Yeah, so they're going to run the Endurance Cup. So it's not the GT World Challenge has endurance races and sprint races. Yeah. So the sprint, they already field a Ferrari for the sprint races.
Yeah, it's a Ferrari.
Yeah. But I saw this article this morning. I think that is super cool. I mean, again, that's what was it a week or two ago that we talked about Max wanting to be able to take somebody from the sim and get them to F1. Well, there you go. Here's the guy's chance.
Now, I saw that Max was spotted with the Mercedes boss, Toto, and there was a lot of speculation about what that meeting may be. And I thought that maybe his GT3, he was going to go to Mercedes. Maybe that was the reason for the meeting, but it clearly says he's running an Aston Martin. So that wasn't it. So I wonder what he's meeting Toto for.
Well, you mentioned sim to reality. Donnie, what's this next sim reality story?
Yeah, so it looks like we got another one. This is an iRacing sponsored vehicle finishing. It looks like second place in the Mazda MX-5 Cup. Trying to find the driver's name. The number 69 iRacing Sim to Reality MX-5 was fast. You guys got the name for it?
Glenn McGee. He won
McGee, yeah.
he won it years ago. Had the opportunity to
So is this relevant because iRacing sponsoring the car, or was he from iRacing originally?
Both.
Yeah, he made a kind of a one-off back in the MX-5 series for the race at St. Pete. The car was sponsored by iRacing.com, but JTR Motorsports, they finished 1-2. So, and I know we're going to talk a little bit later about us doing an MX-5 race, but if you have time, these are 45-minute races. You can catch all of them on YouTube. The racing is usually fantastic. I mean, doesn't matter where they're at. They just put on a great show.
Yeah, so I went to Petit Le Mans last year, and this MX-5 Cup races, I believe, 2 days before the actual race. I didn't think I was going to be interested, but man, these things fly around the track, and they're nose to tail the entire time, just pushing each other in an 18-car line. It was really awesome to watch, and actually ended up being some of the best racing out there that week.
Yeah, VIR, same thing. They call them the Angry Bees because that's what they sound like.
Yeah, they're actually almost louder than the GT3 cars. It's pretty
Yes.
crazy.
Another tidbit on Haley Deegan's latest YouTube video about her race, her most recent race. She dropped a bomb that the people that are racing the MX-5 Cup, they're paying $25,000 a race to buy a ride.
Yeah, it's more of a hobby. I wouldn't imagine you're making a lot of money running this series.
No, I mean Mazda spends a lot of money in that series, so I think the series is very healthy. I mean, they're getting ready to do they're doing a documentary on Prime that I think comes out later this month. But yeah, I don't know. 25,000 like seems like a lot. I mean, you got about 8 or 9 teams that are doing most of the cars. I mean, you know, JTR Motorsports fields quite a few. McCumbee, McLear, gosh, they probably filled 10 of them, William. I mean, there's a lot of cars
it's
out
close.
there.
Yeah, it's a lot.
But I mean, it's just a great entry level for people. I mean, some of the guys that are racing in that, I mean, you're gonna see them in a few years. I mean, Connor Zilic came through the MX-5s. I mean, there's quite a few other small younger guys that are coming up, but you got older guys too that are just gentleman drivers that enjoy it. So, but I'd be surprised to spend $25,000 a race.
All right. Well, it probably doesn't cost $25,000 for this next option, but Caden Honeycutt is entering the coaching world. He's launching a driver coaching program. He's offering services for Cars Tour, real life racing, I guess, and iRacing. He's got a couple of posters with the detail.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. So he's made his way from Cars Tour to now he's running for Nice, I think Nice Motorsports in the truck series. So
Didn't he miss the race or something at Daytona? They didn't make the field or something. Yeah, something bad happened.
I don't think so.
What am I thinking of then? Maybe somebody else. But yeah, I mean, it says here 25 an hour or 300 a day.
$25 an hour is really not that bad. to be on as
Oh,
far
so
as on the sim.
Yeah, on the roadside at least. I'm not familiar with oval, but on the roadside you're looking probably $40 an hour. That's not bad.
All right. So this next post is this Road to Pro we're looking at here? Is that what this penalty is about?
Mike, you put this up, and I for the life of me tried to understand what's going on, and I couldn't figure it out. So
Okay, so
maybe you can explain.
I can. So the Coke Series this week went to Brazil. And so Aaron Smith on Twitter this week before the race reminded everybody that at Brazil, when you start on pit road, which is what Bobby likes to do sometimes, it lets you off pit road before the field gets around and you end up being the leader. And so, anyway, we talked about Connor Euroshock from the Coke Series getting a lane change violation at the previous race, and he has to start on pit road at Brazil. And so they were wondering, is Connor going to get that advantage where he pulls off a pit road and ends up in front of the field? Look, I missed the beginning of the race, so I didn't see how it played out. But I imagine they held him or something and told him not to go out.
Yeah, was that for the sprint race or the longer one?
I don't know if they applied the penalty for the sprint or the longer one, but yeah, that's a known bug at Brazil, where the guy on pit road ends up being the leader.
Well, this video is just Truck Series, I guess, showing how it works, but we're talking Coke Series, right?
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
what
There's no sprint race.
No, the video just shows how the bug works. The guy on pit road ends up getting off pit road before the field comes around.
Yeah, no, the Coke Series, they did run a sprint race. It was 2 races Tuesday night.
Ah.
So if you know that race is coming, do you purposely take a penalty in the previous race?
Well, look, it's a known thing. People know about it. I knew about it. So I think I'm pretty sure that iRacing knew about it too, and probably, like I said, it held him on pit road for an additional 5 seconds or something.
Maybe don't let people start on pit road.
They put him there on purpose with the penalty from the previous race.
I just mean in general, like either start in the back or maybe not race.
It would be nice if you had the option to EOL yourself.
Yeah, but he's there because starting in the pits is a bigger penalty than just an EOL.
But obviously not at that track, it's not.
Normally, right? Well, speaking of the Coke race, Steven definitely had the Wilson to win.
Yeah, it was. I saw bits and pieces of this. Once Steven Wilson got a little gap on second and third, which was Parker White and Casey Kerwin, those two had the battle of their lives. I mean, they went back and forth. At one point, Casey Kerwin kind of rubbed him, knocked him out of the way or something, and he actually let him go back by because it was a gentleman race kind of thing. But it was fun to watch.
Yeah, the sprint race was fun because Vicente Salas won it, and he drives for Tony Kanaan. They had Tony on there, and they've got the shot of Tony watching Vicente end up winning the sprint race. And it was pretty neat to see the emotion from Tony. So I like seeing him involved in stuff.
But no surprise. I mean, all the guys up front are recent Coke champions. So I guess the cream does rise to the top.
So let's talk standings. And even though we only are still in the first segment of the standings, we kind of have different leaders in the overall standings versus the series standings or the segment standings. Steven Wilson is on top because of 2 wins. However, let's go with the top 5. Steven Wilson, Colin Keister, Parker White, Zach Novak, and Casey Kerwin. Then when we jump down to the segment standings, they are not sorted by wins. It's just the most points, and Parker White leads that, followed by Zach Novak, Casey Kerwin, Tucker Minter, and Steven Wilson. So Steven Wilson's 17 points behind the lead, but has 2 wins.
So who can explain to me why they're different? Would they be the same list?
No, because whoever gets the most points in the segments earns playoff points.
Yes, the points are the same. So if you look at that, you've got first and second. Steven has 2 wins. Colin has 1. And third is Parker White with 101 points, which is the same thing he has for segment.
Oh, I see it.
So it's like NASCAR. I mean, it's the win and you're in. So the guy who has the most wins is currently leading the segment, the standings, however you want to say it.
But where it's different than NASCAR is that it's kind of like the overall series or the regular season winner gets some bonus points in NASCAR. In this case, they get bonus points for each of these segments throughout the regular season.
Yes, and I think even with wins, you still have to be in top 20 or something. As far as even if you got to win, you still have to fall somewhere in the points.
Yes, but let's say Parker White doesn't win, but he still is number 1. He gets the bonus points for the segment. So the segment wins don't matter as far as the segment bonus points. It's just points. Whereas wins do matter in the overall standings because when you're in. All right, raise your hand if you can tell us about the new ARCA car. Whose pet project is this?
Yeah, I'm not sure, but this is a video we got from DJ EJ. And he just starts off tongue in cheek about how iRacing just not abruptly, but is getting rid of his favorite car, his farming car. But I have a question for you guys. Have we seen the ARCA? Is week 13 next week?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Have
Yeah,
we
Tuesday.
seen the ARCA car yet?
Yeah.
We've seen actual renders of it and what it's going to look like.
I haven't. I've been looking for them, but I haven't
the
seen them.
video. I mean, the video's got footage of them.
The video in this video?
No, but the Greg West, the blog did. I thought for certain, at least in car.
Okay,
The big blog announcement. Yeah.
Okay. This video, he finds a manual that what's going to detail about the new ARCA car and what engines it's going to have and so forth. So if you need details on what the car is going to be and what the specs are, he goes over it pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, he talks about some of the difference he takes and kind of compares looking at onboard footage of ARCA cars versus what we currently have. Just kind of talks about how plain the cars are, and then actually interviews ARCA driver Brayton Lester as they talk about it as well. So look, everybody knows the car that we currently have is nowhere near, really has never been near what an ARCA car was. So I think it's good to finally get it.
That's the point of the video. It's going to drive differently. Okay, so don't be surprised. He details out how it's going to drive differently in this video, basically. But yeah, it's not the same car.
No, I mean, you got more horsepower, but the cars are limited to about 7,500 RPMs. So again, that's even though you got more horsepower, it's basically choked down because of what the rev limiter is. It's still, it's 110-inch wheelbase, the same size as the old Cup cars. But yeah, no, I think it's cool. I mean, I think look, the only reason we're getting this is because obviously they're putting it in NASCAR 25. I think that ought to be understandable to everybody.
Well, hopefully we start to see some of the track updates as well from that.
We got 5 or 6 coming in next week.
Cool. Have they already released the release notes?
No, but in the blog it was, what is it? We're getting the repaved Iowa. I mean, there's a bunch of them coming.
Cool. All right. Next up, this is definitely right up Brad's alley, but it kind of fits pretty close to what William said last week as well. I don't run the GT3 very often, but I know that when we go to a place where it's GT3 only, we haven't missed Spa yet, right? So when we go to Spa, I'm not driving the Corvette. That's all I can say based on hearing Brad bitch about it all the time, and the fact that Daniel Morad had ranked it as the hardest car to drive and the least realistic.
Yeah, so it's a decently long video that I didn't watch all of it. I kind of cheated and skipped to the end where he gave some of his thoughts. Yeah, Morad, obviously professional driver. He's ran the 24. He's runs in the IMSA series, the lower series, the
Hasn't he won at the
GT4.
24?
Yeah, he won the 24.
Twice.
Yes, twice. Yeah, he's got a couple watches. So obviously he knows what he's talking about. He is a Mercedes factory driver, so he probably knows that better than any of these. But I imagine he's driven each of these at one point.
And William, to interrupt you, he's also the sponsor for our upcoming race.
Yeah, we will get to that in a couple posts. But yeah, so like I said, he obviously knows what he's talking about for a lot of these. He ranked the Porsche GT3 as the most realistic. And then, like David said, the Corvette is down way at the bottom. And the score he gave it, I have to imagine it doesn't feel like the real thing all that much.
No, I mean, he said that talking with guys that do drive it, it drives better. I mean, it's what it is. We've been running it. It's a challenge. I love it and I hate it. I mean, that's what I told David earlier. I'm happy that I hate it. I hate it. I'm happy and I hate it. I hate it.
So I've got an observation. I was listening to the Junior podcast today. He inspires obviously a lot of what we talk about. He brought up that love for racing is essentially a relationship. You love it as much as you basically love a significant other, and then but unlike some significant others, racing always leaves you. He was making that analogy. What I see here, Brad, is you have pretty much a classic codependent toxic relationship with the Corvette.
I want to see iRacing look at this list of cars, take the bottom half of the list, and go fix it. Go fix those bottom half of the list cars so he doesn't rate them as low as he did.
Well, one of the things that he talks about, and I think it's an inherent issue with iRacing, is what we talked about with the Cup car. It's getting the tires into the track, and especially on throttle. And that's the one thing that most of these are missing. And that's probably the biggest complaint until you get to the Porsche and the Acura and the Lambo. They're a little bit better, but again, Porsche's a rear engine car. The Acura Lambo is a mid engine. But it's a weight issue, and again, that's always been the struggle. Look, the tire model is the biggest complaint that anybody has with iRacing. It just sometimes it doesn't feel like it's connected. It can feel very good up to a point, but once you cross that point, there's no grip. So, but look, I like Daniel Morad. I think this was very interesting. Is it going to change what I do? I don't know what I'm going to do yet for next season. I kind of usually rotate through 2 or 3 cars just because I like driving different cars. So, I committed to the Corvette for a couple seasons, and I'll probably go to the Mustang. I like the Mustang. I like the Mercedes. I like the Mercedes probably more than any of them because it's one of the easiest cars to drive.
I quite frankly would rather drive that when we go to Spa. I've driven it several times in the past.
We'll make it so, David.
Yeah, Brad, I was doing some testing for the Spa 6 Hour, and the Corvette is just mystifying. Like when it first came out, I drove it and I liked it well enough, but it wasn't my favorite. Now at Spa, man, I'll be understeering through a corner, and then the next corner the rear leaves. So I just don't understand it right now. It's
I know, and I was telling David, it's one of those cars that if you drive it continually, it's okay, but you cannot swap back and forth between that and other cars because you have to drive it completely different than you drive anything else.
Right. That's how I am with the Porsche. I can drive the Porsche. I can be passed in the Porsche, but I can't. I have to drive only the Porsche, or I'll be seconds off the pace.
And I struggle with the Porsche because of the weight issue. I struggle with the Porsche continually, and I want to drive the Porsche because I love Porsche, but then I get frustrated, and I'm like, well, screw it. I'll go back to what I was doing before.
All right, Bobby, this one is right up your alley. We've got another post from K King Style showing some early renditions of a Dell Jr. scheme.
Oh, the Amped Energy Mountain Dew cars. That's going back some years now. That's when he first joined with Hendrix. I believe this is for the upcoming the Gen 4s.
Well, Kevin King has been around for a long time. He designed most of Dale's cars once he got over to Hendrick. So he was just throwing up some. I saw that he was throwing up a bunch of stuff on Twitter or X, some of his old stuff he's done. But these were some of the different options he gave, as they were working through schemes.
So it's early concept ones.
Yeah, I mean, and it ended up. They did run the first one, which was the amp car. That's kind of the reverse of what they actually ran, but they actually ran that car somewhere. I don't remember where.
Yeah, he's probably got tons of those. I know I've got thousands of stuff that never hit the track that was designed for teams.
Yeah, so like Kevin King, I mean, again, if you remember the Reese's car for Kevin Harvick, the 29, he designed that. He's designed a bunch of very memorable cars for NASCAR.
Cool.
All right. Y'all ever have any problems finding your remote? What if it's 2,000 miles away? We have this next one from PC Mag. This guy is actually driving a car remotely from 2,000 miles away. Now, he's not going very fast.
No, but I saw this and I started thinking about the Crown Vic story. So what if you tie the two together? So you got people with iRacing rigs in their houses. They sign a contract with Cletus McFarland and his racetrack to race the Crown Vics, but they're all set up for remote control with this PC Mag stuff. And so you run a race around Cletus's track with actual Crown Vics, but you're not there. You're driving it remotely, iRacing style. What do you think?
So, Donnie, that takes care of your insurance issue.
It does. However, in this PC Mag video, there's a safety driver in that car 2,000 miles away for just in case something happens, he could take control. Now, is that safety driver going to be in your Crown Vic, Mike, as a just in case?
Well, if you're at a track, you can have everything.
No.
If you're at a track, you have built-in safety because they're not driving on a public road.
You got safe walls. And, yeah, right.
All right, so stop for a second. I got to ask a question though. If you understanding this technology has been used in the Ukraine for them to get supplies to the front lines and to move injured people out. So you're telling me that somebody's remotely driving the car, still with somebody sitting in it, to send them to the front line.
Do you see the lag in the steering? It didn't match.
It's low latency. So, do you think they'll get dropped with the connection flag starting next week?
Plus the stuff in Ukraine, they're probably a little bit less worried about the same kind of safety concerns of getting sued when they're having bombs dropped on them, right? So,
I mean, does this kind of go into electric car territory? Because I mean, I'd rather watch electric cars versus non-occupied cars.
I like the idea of.
Isn't there an AI racing league out there somewhere where the car is completely piloted by AI?
Yeah, but I like the idea of I'm in my racing rig and I'm driving and it's affecting a real car out there on the track.
You think sim race is expensive now? Just wait.
And if you wreck the car, you have to pay for it. I mean, that'll clean up the racing, won't it?
You'd probably practice more, Mike.
I think the latency would just make. I mean, think about how netcode is, and imagine that basically coming across in real life. There's going to be a anywhere from 0.3 to half a second lag.
I've seen some videos where people have taken sim rigs out to some dirt road somewhere, and then they pilot an RC car from their sim rig,
which is
while
cool.
we're in VR. But I'm like, you're not seeing the RC car. You're just watching. You're sitting in your sim rig. I don't know.
The lag issue wouldn't be an issue though if you're right there local, right? Whereas if you're 2,000 miles, you can actually pick up a little bit of delay in light or radio signals.
But look, if everyone is remote, David, they all have the same lag, the same delay, so it's fair.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's going to result in wrecks, is what I'm saying.
We'll call
I'm
it
not saying it's
netcode.
unfair.
Netcode. That's right, netcode.
And whatever safety driver sitting in the Crown Vic survives, he moves on to the next round.
All right.
We
well,
beat a dead horse here.
What if one of those cars cuts the bus stop because of the lag? How long should their slowdown be?
Well, they're not talking about the bus stop, David. They're talking about at Daytona Road, turn 1, where the GTPs arc way out and make the straight corner.
Yeah, well, it is about the slowdown. If you can drop a quarter of a wheel off coming out of the bus stop, and you're going to get a 1 second slowdown, but you can drive 50 or 60 feet off the racing line to get into turn 1 with no issues. Like I said, we've discussed this quite often. I'm glad to see somebody
they're
else
having
bring it
issues.
up.
Is it time to fix it, though? That's what the point of this post is.
Well, let's wait and see what happens when the tire patch comes out. That might just take care of it.
It needs to be it ought to be a penalty. It's ridiculous.
But it also never showed up until this current tire model.
No, it didn't. We dealt with it last year. Yeah, guys were arguing it in there pretty hard.
All right. What about the brake check, William?
Matt Malone was finishing a race, and they come across the start-finish line. Everybody's going along. He pulls out from behind a car, and there's a car that literally just stops right after the start-finish line. Basically, the lesson is just either get way, way off the racing line, or keep doing your cooldown lap, because you're going to cause people 4Xs, and they're going to get bad. Matt was not happy.
I had this happen a few weeks ago. Super frustrating. Just absolutely stupid.
So wait, now I'm going to call out Matt Malone a little bit. I mean, he's got one hand off the wheel. He's pumping his fist as he's coming across the checker, and he almost wrecks the guy. Maybe if he kept his both hands on the wheel, it might not have been so close.
Well, he's also reading chat too, but still, just at least go a turn or so and then get off the racing line. You'll keep getting smashed.
So what is the proper etiquette and strategy after checker? I mean, I think everyone is like, I want to get out of the car as quick as possible before somebody hits me and I get another X.
That's why I usually try to find, on the roadside, I try to find somewhere I can pull off, get off the line, or actually I will go down, at least get through one corner and then pull off. I don't immediately try to pull over and stop, but there's some guys that do, and it's very frustrating.
Or you could be Donnie Spiker and, you know what, I'm not in a hurry. I'm going to ride around the whole lap and then drive in the pit road. Why? I mean, look, we spent 20, 30 minutes racing. Why not one more lap?
I always bring it back to pit road.
No, I just kind of watch what's behind me and find a place where I can pull over.
You lose the immersion.
I'm in VR. I got plenty of immersion.
Hey, David, I'll be qualifying for my super late model race. I'll run the race, but I'll stay on.
Cool. Just jump in when you want. All right. So we've got join us in Chicago, Mike. We're starting to promote our stuff on or is that not what it is? Or is this
race?
You missed one.
I'm looking at brake check, and then the next thing I see is join us in Chicago.
Refresh.
We've got our poster for the March Mazda Madness that we're going to be hosting as a community race.
Okay,
Yeah,
it just logged me out too. Somebody else take it.
Great idea.
So, Mike, you want it or you me?
No, you go ahead.
All right. Yep. So we're going to be hosting a community race. It'll be an open race. March 22nd at Daytona Road. It'll be at night with the Mazda Cup cars, like we kind of alluded to earlier. Muradness, Daniel Murad, is going to be sponsoring this race. So the winner, who is not part of our team, so the highest finisher that's not part of Tfussy, will get a code for a free set of Muradness gloves. Be a 35-minute race, fixed sets, one scheduled caution at 15 minutes in, and one fast repair.
Yeah, this
Open
should be
to
fun.
everybody.
Yep, this should be fun. These things are so much fun at Daytona.
Yeah, I'm sorry about not seeing this, but it literally wasn't there. So it must have come in at the very last second.
We all plan on running.
I'll be there.
Of course. Yep.
Yep, we'll all be there, and we're gonna get a broadcaster, I think, as well to broadcast it. And thank you to Daniel Morad for stepping up with the free gloves for our little event. So everyone, come on out and have some fun. We want you guys who are driving in this, you listeners, join us in the Discord during the race so you can hang out with the team.
Yep. That way, also, if we end up with a with the broadcaster, they want to interview somebody, we could just move you into the broadcast channel. So if you need gloves, I've been using his gloves for a couple of years. My wife bought me a couple pair over the winter, so for Christmas. So good gloves.
All right, so now we're back on script, and we have basically join us in Chicago, and this is actually from HSW, right? Visit their booth at their HSW SimWorks booth, get a sneak peek at the new Apex R1 steering wheel. Mike, your mic is not there. You go.
Yeah,
Now you're lighting up.
pretty cool to see the Sim Gaming Expo starting to sign actual exhibitors. So HSW is going to be there. HSW SimWorks. There was another one just earlier this afternoon. I forget the name of it. Something to do with some button box company was announced as well. And then David, we're going to be announcing that we're officially signing up here shortly as well.
Yep, I've already sent him our description, company name, logo, and all that. We're still sorting out exactly how we want to get the booth working. So it's going to be basically a good little hangout place. We'll be recording the show in an actual podcast booth area. So we won't be recording the show there, but we're going to have a few lapel mics with us for a little kind of man on the street interviews as we go on throughout the show. So some of us will be roaming the floors, but if you want to come by, and even if it's just drop a shout out to get dropped in on the show, come by the booth.
Yeah, we got my iPhone and a couple little lavalier mics. I'm going to be I'll be walking up to you, putting the mic in your face. Tell me about your Sim Racing Expo. Tell me about your iRacing experience. And I want a 1 or 2 minute answer, and we're going to put a show together with those answers. So you guys be looking for me.
I'll have a couple with me as well. I mean, and any of us that have some, bring them. We'll be shotgunning it around the area. All right, a little jump away from iRacing. We have NASCAR 25 career mode information from Dale Earnhardt, and it's a clip where he says basically you'll have to spend time like doing movies and promotions and stuff. So he's simulating all the stuff that he hated when he was a driver.
Right? No, but you have to do sponsor appearances. You have to do community work or whatever, to appease the ownership, the sponsors, and various stuff. And if you don't participate, he kind of insinuates that you may not climb the career ladder as quickly as successfully.
As a console sports gaming enthusiast, I guess a fan, this is the goofy stuff we like.
Yeah, doesn't you on NCAA have to spend time recruiting? And what it really does is it just spins a little wheel for a second, and then your stats change.
More or less.
Well, to Donnie's point, I mean, doesn't it, these type of things make it more of a game versus just a race? I'm just here to race.
I'm just here to race.
Yeah,
I really don't want to see this in iRacing.
Please no.
It's for consoles. It's not obviously for us. My all my shit happens outside of the rig that puts me in here. So yeah, it's for the consoles. It's for somebody to try to relive live a NASCAR career type of thing.
It also might appeal to the kids who basically want to pretend they're going through a whole career instead of just racing, right?
Yeah, cool. Pretty cool that they get Dale Jr. to actually voice the video too. Pretty cool.
I think there's cell phone games where you're just the manager and your team just does all of its playing by itself. All right, let's finish up with all. Actually, we can go in this order since that's the order you put it in. What's going on this week in iRacing, Brad?
All right, so this week at iRacing, we've got the NASCAR iRacing Series is at Phoenix. The Dirt Late Model, Super Late Model Tour is at Limaland Motorsports. The 410 Sprint cars are at Dirt Track at Charlotte. Super Late Models back on this week. They will be at Hickory. Mike's M2, she's probably been running. I see him running every night. Is at Scuba. If I have 4 regionals, Americans are at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Asia Pacific is at Suzuka. Europe is at Barcelona. Global is at Hockenheim Ring. And then, as usual, we've got the Ringmeister, Draftmaster, and whatnot. Esports wise, as we've already talked, NASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series was at Interlagos this week. Porsche Cup Tag Heuer will be at Sasha Ring this weekend. So then the NASCAR College iRacing Series is off.
I'm going to pick on your pronunciation a little bit. Do you say Tsunami?
Nah, Tsukuba.
Okay.
So you skipped over Rainmaster, and I thought I was reading Week 13 stuff here because somebody thought it'd be a good idea to put Rainmaster on Lime Rock with the GT3 cars in the rain. That's going to be fun. I doubt you're going to see much participation for that.
Rain kills the participation everywhere.
Has anybody tried running a Cup car at Lime Rock?
No, trucks will be there this year.
Actually, I did actually.
Because the shorter road courses, I think, are what stock cars need. As long as they're wide enough. We'll get into that more later. All right. And so then we've got our post for the Sim Gaming Expo. So we've announced a couple of vendors that we know are going to be there. We know we're going to be there. I can go ahead and say Into the Apex is going to be there as well. So I was actually thinking it'd be interesting if we had a Family Feud game versus him.
Yeah, we have some fun ideas. The announcement this morning that Sim Gaming Expo put out was Admin Box is coming. So remember, Admin Box was a custom button box specifically for admins that have, all the admin commands.
All right. Once we get everything sorted, I believe we are going to be able to get you guys a discount code for iRacers Lounge fans for the tickets.
Yeah, and I had one listener, Joe Gates, I believe it was, said he was going to be there. So looking forward to seeing you, Joe. Podcast housekeeping. Leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform to make it easier for more listeners to find the podcast. Mention the podcast to your fellow drivers so that they don't miss out. We would appreciate it. Check out our Discord and get involved. There's a link at the bottom of the homepage at iRacersLounge.com, which, by the way, I worked on that website after some fans told us it needs some help. We kind of cleaned it up. We removed some bad links. You'll find the show notes link right on the front page now. So check it out, guys. We're in regular rotation at Performance Motorsports Network. And get your merchandise at iRacersLounge.shop.
Okay. Brad, you don't get to talk about fantasy this week. We're just going to skip this section.
Whoa, you got second for Coda.
Yeah, surprisingly. So, yep, we were at Coda this week.
Why does it have you up at the top? Is it because it's you?
It's because it's me logged in.
Okay.
I couldn't figure out any other way to get it to sort. So
You're normally not in the top 10, Brad, so it's not a problem.
It's the first time we've ever seen his name on the fantasy page.
Well, normally I'm up there and I cut myself out because I'm below. I'm way past 10. But since I was second, I left myself in there. So yeah. So this week, points for the race, we had Cletus 545 with the win. Boats and Hose and myself tied for second. iRacing Mason was fourth, and then Race Addict was fifth. So I think the overall consensus that from what I've heard from most of the podcasts I listen to and stuff is that everybody enjoyed Coda. I enjoyed watching it on TV. I don't want to race there again in iRacing because I don't enjoy it, but I will gladly watch it on TV.
I actually liked the race better than the long track. For one of the reasons, the long straight, everybody's like, oh, the long straight. That long straight is for the F1 cars. And a cup car doesn't need that kind of a long straight. Some of the best road course racing we've seen with stock cars throughout history has been Sonoma, the short track style racing.
I have a question. Were the first two stages good?
It wasn't bad. I mean, it was fine.
The racing was good until the stage strategy came in because everybody's trying to flip the stage. If we didn't have stages on these road courses, it'd been great. Like I enjoyed the racing until the stage bit.
Yeah. For me as a purist, I'd rather not have the stages on the road course because it makes it more interesting. But then again, we tried that for half the year and 20.
We tried it for one race.
We
tried it for one race. It went cost free. They're like, oh, we can't do that.
I know.
I did like the shorter course format. There were some really nice things about this race, and there were some not really nice things about this race. I liked the shorter format. However, we continue to talk about iRacing. We continue to talk about NASCAR's inconsistency, and they one-upped it from changing the rules from one day to the next to changing it in the middle of the damn race.
Oh, the slow down penalties on turn 6 you're referring to?
Yeah.
Well, I don't think they called anybody for turn 6.
Well, what they did is what really happened is they stopped. They just never called anybody for it, but they never told anybody they were not going to call anybody for it. And so everybody just kind of had to sort of start figuring it out.
I don't know. I've heard a bunch of different conflicting things on that some of them were told it was just 3, 4, and 5, and some were told it's just the S's. So
it was not announced until
clear as mud.
Stage 1 of the Cup race.
Well, it's just look. The one thing that aggravates me about watching that race is just the amount of abuse that they do to the. There's no limit to the track. There's no track limits, and there needs to be some. I get aggravated anytime watching a stock car on a road course and watching guys just drive 30 feet off the line, and it's okay.
So what about Phoenix?
Well, look, if they were at Road Atlanta, it wouldn't be a problem. The problem is this stupid track after turn 1 looks like a parking lot the whole way.
That's the way every F1 track is. I mean, it's nothing. Let's take a piece of land and let's sit down and draw it in a CAD system, and we'll make a track out of it, as opposed to using the natural flow of the land.
Yeah, but it causes just as many problems as at Phoenix, where they're running 30 feet down below the line. And
I don't disagree.
In both cases, they need to come up with a way to obstruct it without destroying the cars, whether it's a bunch of smaller turtles or something. Because the big turtles, they don't want them launching like they did at Indy, right? Remember when the cars got airborne?
You don't need to put something there. You've got lines at Daytona. If you go below this line, it's a penalty. Plain and simple.
But then they're terrible at judgment calls, and
it's not a judgment call if you go below a line.
Well, in Phoenix, yes. In Phoenix, yes. Whereas, but at the other track, at the road courses, they're going outside the lines, and sometimes they call it, sometimes they don't.
So, my question is, how come we in iRacing have to run a different layout than what they ran?
Well, we don't have that layout. That layout was just created pretty much almost. It seemed like last minute. I mean, let's throw some asphalt down here real quick and make a short shoot.
They have said though that it is going to become a permanent layout at the track because it's going over pretty well.
Yeah, I think they'll use it for other series as well. I would have preferred. I would have been interested to watch them run the national course that we ran. I think that would have been a little bit more interesting.
Okay, so this week we're going to Logano Raceway. Phoenix Raceway.
Penske
So
Raceway.
who do we like besides Joey Logano?
Ryan
Toyota-
Blaney.
Ryan Newman. Not Ryan
Toyota,
Newman. Ryan Blaney.
Toyotas have been good in the spring, and it's been Penske in the fall. I don't know. Seabell 3 in a row.
Yeah, he's hot. Can't bet against him.
So he won. I think he won the spring race there last year. So. All right, so to close out fantasy overall, after third week, we've got Boats and Hose in first with 555 points. Team Dewan in second, tied with Res Dog, and tied for fourth. Cletus 545 and SDS 49031.
Our first hardware item is a seat featured on Advanced Sim Racing's site called the Corbeau. It looks pretty comfortable and a nice standard kind of iRacing bucket seat.
They're 380 to 550. There's 4 different versions. It's kind of got that fake leather look. They look 2 of them recline, the other 2 don't. So lots of variety here.
My issue with the ones that recline is is there enough support to where it doesn't move when you get on the brakes?
On my old Obuto rig, it had a reclining seat, and I had that problem where one side of the seat would hold steady and the other would fall back. It sucked.
I wouldn't mind getting the reclining seat. What you should do with any of the bucket seats is have it leaning back a little so that it's holding your knees up, essentially.
Yeah, but the problem is it. I mean, you'd have to mount. It's the way you mount the seat. The reclining is not going to change what the seat does to the angle of your legs.
Correct, but if you have a standard bucket seat and you lean it back, it's essentially reclined. But you shouldn't be. Your body, your angle of your legs to your back shouldn't be reclined. Your knees should be kind of up a little if you're going to be especially if you're going to be in the proper GT racing position.
Now, none of these seats have the submarine belt hole at the bottom, but 3 out of the 4 are set up for belts on shoulder and lap.
Those are not seats you'd usually mount into a race car. They typically into a street car. The brand it's a very good brand. I have installed them into several projects that we have built over the years. They're good quality seats.
All right, whoever I end up asking for this question is probably going to think I'm trying to insult them, so I'm just going to let a volunteer take it.
So I threw this video in the script. This is from Sim Sport Gadget. It says size does matter. It's actually a pretty interesting video, especially if somebody's new to sim racing and doesn't understand. When you start talking about the size of wheel rims, everything first of all is in millimeters. So we're talking, 300 millimeters, 320, 330, 280, 300, 270. So I thought they did a very good job of explaining the different types of wheels, what's the typical size of them, what they're used for, and then really explaining, why does a formula car use a small rim? Well, because it relies on downforce and you're making very quick movements. So a 270 millimeter rim, it doesn't take much turning in order to turn the car, as opposed to a 330 millimeter rim that you'd use in a stock car. Takes quite a bit of rotation to actually turn the car. So I just thought it was interesting. So that's why I threw it in there.
Yeah, it's a good lesson to understand why would you pick one size over another. And with formula wheels, for me, the sweet spot is 300. I don't think I want one less than 300.
Yeah, same here.
I think I go a little bit smaller just because I'm smaller.
Yeah, you got small hands, but I mean, I don't. For
Well,
me
you're
to
a
use for me to use a 280, it's just too small.
Mhm. So it should
your
fit you, whatever you
Fanatec
get.
is a 280, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, see, mine, I've got Simeji TT4, which is 300.
What do you think, William?
300 sweet spot. That's what mine is. And I mean, you're talking about millimeters, and 10 doesn't sound like a lot, maybe not, but you can really tell a difference if you go between 300, 290, 280, and 320. You can really tell a difference. So mine's at 300. I think the wheel I really, really want might be a 310, but right there around that is the sweet spot.
Let's talk oval wheels while we're here, though. When I was with Fanatec, I had a 13-inch, and then I went to the Max Pappas Industry, which I think is 15. That was a massive difference going from 13 to 15, and I can't tell you how it felt like I was driving a toy before, and now I feel like I'm driving a race car.
Yeah, so I've got a 14-inch Max Pappas, and to me, that's the sweet spot. I bought a 15-inch, not a Max Pappas, and put it on, and I just didn't like it. That's why I went to the 14-inch. So, and again, it's changed through the years. I mean, there's a lot of cup cars run a 14-inch wheel now. They don't, and not everybody
Or
runs a 15 or even 13s. That's right. So for me, the sweet spot on an oval rim, was a 14-inch. 15 was just a little bit too big for me.
It's not, and it's going to come down to, again, it can come down to your frame size. The 13 is not too small for me because, small frame. However, how about the difference of why you want an oval rim versus a road rim? What the trade-offs are? Because some people may be like, well, why do you have to have both if you do both? A road rim is designed for quick responsiveness because you're whipping through chicanes all the time, and hairpin turns, and everything's just in most cases a lot faster. And responsiveness is more important than subtlety, quite frankly, especially when you have traction control and anti-lock brakes helping you out. Whereas the oval rim, it's not as responsive, and it's way more sensitive, and you're able to be more subtle and take care of the tires, in especially in oval racing.
I feel like the larger oval rim for me, as I went to it, and I think Chris Waldron pointed this out when I went to it, was my tire wear got better. No, it was Justin who was saying it. Because Justin was running with me all the time when I got that rim, and he said, "Hey, your tire wear is better now than it was before." And I think it's because of the larger diameter. I'm not scrubbing the tire as much, I guess, or turning the wheel as much.
Yeah, your input can be it's much finer input.
Did you keep running the exact same steering pinion from wheel to wheel?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're actually running a lower steering pinion, basically.
Right, exactly.
If you've got a bigger rim to get the exact same feel, you'd need to crank the steering pinion up higher. That's why when my smaller rim, I want to run 183 because I need that a little bit more rotation.
And some of it, on the oval side, does come down to driver preference on how fast they want their box, and it also will depend too on the track you're at. I know a couple of drivers I've worked with. One of them ran a 13-inch wheel at the speedways, and he was a consistently upfront driver. He liked it because it gave him the ability to move around the track quickly. And another driver I worked with, and they actually had very similar setup styles, just the wheels were different. He liked a big wheel where he was a little bit smoother on it, but he wasn't one to move lanes as quickly. Well,
when I'm running ovals, I run the 183 with the small rim, where I'm having to turn it all the way to 9 o'clock usually in the corners. Whereas if I'm at a road course or a super speedway, I crank it up to either 2.8 or even higher so that I have better responsiveness. And when you're lane changing or having your car suddenly get tight in a speedway with a car on your side, you need to be able to adjust quicker. All right. Well, while we're talking gear, how about Max's gear, Mike?
Yeah, OC Racing kind of has a short video here about what does Max Verstappen race on. He says the wheelbase is the Leo Bodner, which is $4,000.
That's like one of the very first direct drive wheels. I mean, it's old, but
It is, and you'd think that the software might not be up to par to some of these other bases, but I digress. He also said the rim was the Asher Racing McLaren, and then he pointed out his headset, which I didn't recognize the name of that brand.
You think it's weird him staring at a McLaren logo on his off time?
I don't know.
Think he even notices it?
Probably not.
I don't know. It'd be like, let's say a Hendrick driver running like William Byron, and he's staring at a Team Penske logo.
Would they actually get onto him for running the wrong model in iRacing?
I don't know.
Yeah, they could. It really depends on his contract. They could, but the thing is, too, being a sim event, they probably won't. If it was another live event, you better believe it.
He doesn't race for a manufacturer, for one. He races for Red Bull, okay, an energy drink. So I think he's got some leeway.
Yeah, I mean, he's done stuff for Ford because I guess Ford has something to do with the F1 team.
You know, we talked about his GT3 team, his Aston Martin, you know,
and Ferrari,
right? And he just met with Toto.
It's a little different.
Yeah, and he met with Toto today, so who knows what that's about.
So it's pretty neat to see what he races with. You know, it's you know, we talked before. I guess he's got the rig at the house. He's got the rig in the airplane. He had the rig in the flower truck last year or whatever for when they were going to somewhere because he was going to race during the weekend. So to have such a hard life.
In here, people become.
All right. Unstoppable Gadgets _EN is what we've got next. And this is Brad was excited about this one. He said he's saving up for this.
Absolutely not.
So it's a plexiglass ball with a cockpit inside of it, and it's on a mechanism where it can spin freely, 360 degrees, any direction a ball can spin. And so the idea is flight sim, driving sim, and they show a little video here of it in action. And like, look, when you wreck and you roll the car, it's gonna roll. Look, does motion get any better than this?
Well, I'm curious what it does if you're flying inverted in a plane, because when you're flying inverted in a plane, you're pinned back in the seat.
It looks very gimmicky to me.
Yeah. Or like if you get shot at, one of the first, especially if you get shot at with a SAM missile, like, and you know you're right on the edge of its range, the first thing you do is dive straight for the ground and get as low as you can, and then start flying away from the where the missile was shot from, so that it runs out of fuel flying through thick air. So I'm curious, if you're going straight down, is it going to point you? If it points you straight down, and you're feeling the seat belt like you're slamming on the brakes, that wouldn't make sense, because you're also afterburner. Your G's are pushing you back; they're not pushing you forward. So I think in some ways it would actually still be flawed.
It would be an inverted feel almost of what it should be. To your point, like if you're upside down, you'd be fighting the belts holding you in against the gravity. And to your point, it should feel just the opposite, but pretty neat looking video.
Well, if you're diving, you should be being pushed against the seat. If you're flying upside down, it depends on how much power you've got in the engines, on whether it's going to be pushing you back or you're just going to be hanging from the seat.
Yeah, it looks really gimmicky.
I agree.
All right, well, we teased it, so we can't not talk about it. We've got huge news from Massatech.
Yeah, changes to the product lineup, basically. The button boxes have gotten some tweaks. One of the video, Lawrence, he puts up on the title slide, no longer ugly. And I have to agree with him. I think they have made them look a little bit better than they initially were. They also changed up the pedals, too.
Changing the buttons does not change the look of the rim. I just don't like the design of their rims at all.
Yep. And they're getting where they're all button boxes and you add the rim to it. Like I said, the pedals are different. He's got a new pedal module.
Yeah, this Thorpe 2 or whatever, I think what did he say? It allows for a little bit more travel. But I guess they're getting ready to release a hydraulic add-on as well as what's coming. But I guess the most interesting thing that they talked about is I guess they're gonna have an entire line of entry level stuff that's gonna be considerably cheaper as well. But no word when that's coming, but he kind of alluded to that towards the end of the video.
Interium or something like that, he called it. And the whole idea is you get the rig, the seat, the base, the pedals, everything you need for a $1,200 or less package. Also, a third part, a new QR adapter where you could take an Ace-Tech wheel and put it on any wheelbase.
Which I don't know.
How does that work?
Yeah, I mean, you can almost do that really with anything now. I don't see where that's super new. I mean,
Well, you're using their quick release. They're the one that has a little lever on the top. You just kind of flick and it comes right off. Which to me, as I watch the video, the pins, it looks like the pins can be bent, the pins can be messed up. It reminds me of the Fanatec one.
yeah, that's what I don't like about at all. That's the one thing I liked with Sim Magic was, with Sim Magic, it's like just a typical NRG quick release, which is super nice.
Yeah, I use my SimiCube and it's a little bit different. I mean, everybody knows the SimiCube QR, but it is nice. Ace-Tech, I believe it puts the power through that quick release, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does, and that's why there's pins.
So that's nice. And then, I mean, Matt Malone uses Ace-Tech. He swaps a wheel out almost every other race, and I don't think he's had problems with it yet. So maybe it's not that big a deal.
Well, nothing that was a surprise to me where I, wanted to jump out and buy some Ace-Tech gear. But, with everyone else coming out with active pedals, you'd think that they would be on top of this, but no.
All right, well, that's about all the time we have for hardware, Mike. So it's time for the results. We'll kick it off with NIS.
Yeah, so I show Friday Open, NIS, the Circuit of the Americas, COTA. Friday Open, Chris, it was P16. I finished. That's an accomplishment. Was he the only one that ran?
Nobody kept running it. I think I got to run on Sunday. No, I didn't actually.
Most of them were one and done, weren't they?
Yeah, I was top split on the roadside, so finishing 26 was pretty miserable.
All right, moving on to Phoenix. Wednesday Open, I got a P9. Lots and lots of cautions. I kept it clean, but a little past halfway, I got wrecked out a couple of different times. Little over 6 minutes damage, but I was able to keep it on track and somehow, some way, bring it home to finish P9. David, P5.
Yeah, I'll talk a little bit later about once you get this car fixed, it could go. I had an A Open race where with 5 minutes left of damage, I was running with the pack. This one though, I didn't get any damage. I stayed safe. Never really gotten any trouble. There were quite a few times where we had some rubbing racing situations, but nobody ended up wrecking as a result of it. All the wrecks were mostly behind us. So came through P5, stayed safe.
Justin Pearson, I believe he forgot to change out of his qualifying set. Continued on anyway, but eventually wrecked out. Chris, P16. The bright red Waldron's Furniture team fought hard through an action-packed race today, starting with a challenging 16x 50 laps in. We found ourselves playing catch-up right from the start, but our team's perseverance showed through. Despite multiple repairs and constant adversity, we stayed sharp and safe as the race wound down. In the end, we brought the iRacers Lounge premier setup Simrap Chevy Camaro home 16th. Managed to finish just outside the top 15. Considering the circumstances, it was a solid effort. We're proud of how we pushed through. Brad, P27.
Yeah, self-inflicted. So started P2, kind of dropped back to avoid some of the very aggressive driving at the start. The guys were just really I mean, it was 3 and wide. It was just stupid. So just kind of dropped back a little bit. We made it to about halfway and had a restart. And I cut the tri-oval, had been cutting the tri-oval all race. Did it Tuesday night. And the A Open I ran, no issues, but car bottomed out and I spun. I really don't know what I did differently. So I just completely caught off guard because it hadn't happened before. Worst part was I did it right in front of Justin, and he hit me, and that's what put him out of the race, unfortunately. So we ended up with about 7 minutes of damage. Went ahead and got it fixed. Kind of at that point, it just turned into an SR. Ride it out for SR just to try to get something out of it. Was going to finish about P25. Had 2 guys where we're on the same lead, same lab. We're 8 laps down. Got by both of them, and we were on wasn't the first green white checkered, but I guess we had a restart with about 4 or 5 to go something, and had 2 guys that spun out coming through the tri-oval, same thing, and thought I had him cleared, just clipped me in the I think the left rear, and at that point the car was just destroyed. So I just kind of sat there. I run very well at Phoenix. I just can't ever seem to finish a race. So it's just super frustrating.
Bobby, you did finish.
No, Phoenix is a track I typically do well at. I've got some wins there. Since they changed it, I've had a hard time with getting wrecked with guys just using that dog leg when they cut down. There are some that don't care when they come back up, and they will use the car above them to turn. And that is what happened. He went down there. He had so much speed, never lifted, and basically used me as a stop for the corner. Pushed me out into the wall, and the car was it was never the same after that. And it ended up wrecking the car. It had just gotten so tight, and just finishing it off. We got to about lap 90, and that was what we were done for.
All right, and then Thursday Open, David, P21.
Yeah, it's not an NIS week if somebody doesn't spin in front of me in one of the races, right? So that's what happened. Running relatively clean, and the guy in front of me, next thing I know, he's sideways. I just lightly get into him, and then I don't know. It was weird. I should have gone back and watched the replay, but he kind of sort of got straightened back up when I barely got into him, and then it shoved me into the wall again because he still had momentum. It wasn't like retaliating or anything. And then we both got ARCA braked afterwards, and it was 7 minutes of damage. Not required, but the car, one of the wheels was crooked, so it should have been required. So I ended up going 8 laps down. But then we had a long run at the end, and since I went ahead and fixed all the damage, I ran effectively all the way back up to 5th place, but 8 laps down.
And Bobby, another DNF.
I made, I think, 25 feet past the start-finish line of this race today. Again, somebody trying to cut the dog leg. They laid back on the start of the race quite a bit, got a run, and as soon as their front tires hit the line, they just hard left down. And I was on the lane right above the line. I didn't dive down because I already had guys that were diving to the inside on the start. I just let them go. And as he did that, he just hooked my right rear and straight into the wall. I think I was like 20. I think I said to Joe when he asked me how I did it, I said, I think I made it 25 feet past the line. That's about it. That I did file a protest over. That one, I was pretty irked for a couple hours. I mean, I'm still pretty pissed about it. And they need to fix the track limits, otherwise it's just bullshit racing.
Yeah, but
I agree.
the problem is that that's what you see on Sunday. What are you going to do?
I have never once seen somebody turn from the top side with a car below them dead left into.
I know, but again, that's what we watch on Sunday. So guys immediately think that's just the way that you got to race.
Well, you do have to cut the course. You just have to be a little bit more aware of what's around you and when you can cut. And we don't have spotters. They have spotters. They can.
Well,
they can
and that's the point is I didn't cut the course because I already had guys dive bombing me. So I'm like, all right, well, Jesus, we're just taking the green flag. Go ahead, go under me. I don't care. But he apparently from the top line didn't care either.
I mean, we have to go down there because it's in the rules. I got in an argument on one of the other discords with a guy who was like, "Oh, you're all cheating. The whole you're not cheating if it's not against the rules." But it's causing more problems than it should, and it just looks dumb. I think they should fix it. They should do something to that part of the track that makes it not advantageous.
They need
to go
to
down there.
reconfigure the Phoenix track
Will
so people will
happen.
never drive down there.
Will never happen. Nothing is
I know
better
it won't.
than looking at 8 wide coming through that stupid dog leg.
We
I'm sure
can't even
NASCAR
race at
loves it.
Martinsville. We race with a bunch of ding dongs.
So I mean, I was watching one of the older races on Tubi today because thank God there's a 24/7 NASCAR channel now.
Is that why we have a weight management problem, Donnie?
But
Possibly.
you know, I was thinking about them cutting the dog legs. They were not cutting the dog leg every lap. It was actually fairly rare to see somebody cut the dog leg. The only time they were doing it is if they were next to somebody or passing somebody.
Yeah, but you got these stupid Gen 7 cars that have 5 million pounds of downforce, so you can drive them anywhere.
Yeah, but the thing is, they say, well, they do it in real life. But actually, they don't do it every lap in real life like these guys in iRacing do.
Because it can mess up the undercarriage.
Oh, definitely. It's hard on the car in real life.
Yeah, and that in real life it hurts the drivers too. It's very painful to go down there.
Say there's no penalty to drive down there on iRacing. That's the reason they don't do it in certain situations in practice and stuff, because it's like you said, it's a lot of bump and wear and tear on the driver, but it's also wear on our carriage of the car. It damages the splitter.
Just blame Phoenix.
We just
the
need
reconfigure was the worst thing they did.
I think you should do it so many times in iRacing, it should bend your damn splitter like it does in real life.
New track name, since all the bouncing hurts your spleen. Spleenix.
Ooh, Splenix title idea. All right, M2, BMW M2. I ran at Summit Point. I wasn't fast. Yeah, I finished 9th out of 11. Got what I deserved. A open, Brad, P23.
Yeah. So Phoenix Woes. So started P7, was top 10 for most of the race. As usual, just kind of get caught up in somebody else's mess. Had two guys that were just they were knocking each other for 2 or 3 laps, and I was trying to stay out of it. And we went into turn 1, and I was like, well, they're going to end up doing something. So I tried to stay back a little bit, stay a little bit high. They end up spinning. I had nowhere to go. End up just crushing the wall going into turn 1, and of course I'm the one that ends up with too much damage. They wouldn't even fix the car, and the two guys that caused the issue just go on to finish 9th and 12th. Super frustrating.
All right, Imza, William, P17.
Yeah, so since the beginning of the year, I haven't really had a ton of time to do anything other than league and then hop on here, the podcast with you guys. So I was excited to get into an official with IMSA, and it quickly just went downhill. We started in a weird spot, going pretty much right after the turn before the chicane. That means we were all over each other going into the chicane, 3 wide, 4 wide. I got dumped going into the chicane. The guy that hit me then sent me a book in private chat about how he thought it was my fault. I was coming back up through the field, and then I just made a stupid mistake. I got a run on a GT3 that was in front of me, but we had a GTP coming. I let him go and then tried to follow him past my fellow GT3 and then completely missed my breaking point, murdered this poor GTP. Meatballs for us both. At that point, I just kind of parked it because it was not a good race. Finished P17. The most embarrassing thing I've done for a long time in the sim. I ruined that guy's race. So think his name was Jay. If you happen to be a listener, I'm sorry.
Look, I think this goes back to please iRacing. Can you get multi-class starts right? There's no reason at Spa for us to have in a GT3 to be starting and having to deal with the first chicane.
Yeah.
It's just stupid. It's absolutely stupid.
Yeah, it
It's
was
one of the
literally
biggest
in blank.
long-running problems we've had, and there's similar problems. I guess I'll get to in my final thoughts, but yeah.
It's overdue. All right, let's talk majors. Greg and David, P13.
And Tom should be on there as well. He didn't run the first race, but he ran this one with us. Yeah, I started this one. Had a lot of getting caught up in other people's crap. A couple of GTPs spinning in front of us, and then I'm coming around Parabolica, and you pass. If you're not going to get beside them in time to send it, you let them turn down, and you go to the outside. And this GT3 car turns down. I start to go to the outside, and he comes back up to the outside. And he was still far enough ahead. I was able to check up, but then a GTP behind, he came flying around, and because I turned down a little, he wasn't expecting me to be there, and boom, I got hit. Most of the stewards that I talked to after the race said I should have protested the GTP, but I really still feel like it was on the GT3 because he ran the unpredictable race line. He was jumping up high to get out of the way, and that's the worst thing you can do, and that's really what led to it.
Run your line if you're the slower car, right? Brad and Justin, P11.
Yeah. I want look. It's one thing to run your line, but the problem is GTPs will throw it in the left side and they'll throw it in the right side, and you have no idea where they're going. That's the problem, and especially at Parabolica. I dealt with that all race, where it's like, guys, which way are you going to go? And it's very frustrating.
I won't go to the inside unless I'm beside you before the braking zone. And and that's what the GTP should do. But I mean, I stayed behind him. Never, I didn't even give a hint of my nose. And he just panics and flies up. And I want them to be told to stay low till we're beside you. And I want the GTPs to be told, don't get beside him unless you get beside him before the braking zone.
Well, that's the problem, and that's what I said. That's the frustration I have with this last tire model is they have way too much corner speed, and the guys were just literally throwing it in everywhere. So,
yeah, because you lose a lot if you don't go because we have to slow down so much with the way it is. So hopefully the tire model will alleviate some of that, like you said.
Problem is you're asking for common sense to be used, and we haven't seen a lot of it lately.
And it's supposed to be better in the league race, and they've got it spelled out in the rules how it's supposed to be properly done compared to the way it is in official racing.
Yep. So we ran Monza as well. Fantastic qualifying. Started on the pole, but lost it coming out of Lesbo 2 on cold tires. So back to the Corvette issue. It's just one of those things. So completely embarrassed that I did that. So ended up fighting back through the field. Only to get caught up in an accident coming into Ascari. So had a GTP that got sideways at the first left, and I couldn't avoid him. There's just no way. I'm going left, and he's sliding left, and there was nothing I could do. So ended up with a meatball, and again, completely forgot that we had a fast repair. I just couldn't believe. I mean, Justin and I both we completely forgot we had a fast repair in the league. Sat and got it fixed, but it was a fight for all 4 hours. I want to give kudos to Justin. So he did the middle stint. He got us from 18th to 14th. We played some pit strategy at the end and ended up getting a few spots back. Ended up finishing P11, but really frustrating because we had the speed. Should have been a top. Probably should have been a podium. Just a screw on my part. I struggle at Monza through Lesmo 1 and 2. That's the biggest struggle I have with that track is being consistent and not losing the car through there. Look, the one thing I do like about the majors is we had a proper race start for a GT3, which was fantastic. To be able to take the green flag as you're coming out of Parabolica and get somewhat sorted out, before you get to the first chicane, as opposed to taking the green and then everybody going 4 wide through Parabolica and it becoming a disaster. It was nice. So the safety car procedure, Justin was in the car for that. That was better than I think what had happened before. That actually Justin was frustrated with it, but had it not been for the safety car that we had, our race would have been done. We never would have gained the position that we got, even though we were multiple laps down. But it kind of reset the field and gave us opportunity to get from 18th all the way up to 11th.
Yeah, and I didn't finish our info. We got back up to 13th pretty much through attrition. Yeah, and they did have a lot of things go smoother with the safety car. I'm just hoping they can get enough people to go back to the safety car being organic. And I think what they did this time, I'm just guessing. I think Garen ran the safety car procedure for all 3 races, so they scheduled him where he could run each of them. So I hope they can get the organic cautions back in instead of having one planned, so that it's not as predictable.
Yeah, I mean, Daytona for me was a disaster. The 2.4. I mean, that was a mess with the safety car, but that was the first one of the season.
And that was a whole different set of rules. That wasn't the same as the WEC or the MEC settings.
Oh, I know.
Okay. Grassroots Racing, William, P4.
Yep, P4, qualified P3. We were at Montreal for week 10 of 12. We're trying some tracks that maybe haven't been tried before, or for our league anyway. Didn't really know the track before this week, so I was learning and to go. Good race. Multi-class through it was actually better than I thought it would be. I thought it was going to be a disaster with all the chicanes and tight turns, but it actually wasn't bad. Probably could have had P3, but was overdriving the car a good bit of the race until I figured some stuff out towards the end. But P4, solid result. Take it.
All right. Final thoughts, David Hall.
Okay, so we're talking about the things that we just really want to see get bumped up in the priority, and I was disappointed to see that there's nothing about any of the marshaling in the patch coming up, because it's really showing up at Phoenix. They've shortened the cautions at every oval track to essentially only 2 laps. So now at Phoenix, because of the layout of the pit lane, if you're the lucky dog, you start getting end of line penalties before you can get to the pit entrance. Even if you do like we did at all the big tracks and you go ahead and sneak up to next to the leader, waiting on it to give you the instructions, even if you do that before you get to pit road entry, it's telling you to let people by, and you never get to pit, because all the people who are getting their damage fixed are coming out at the last second, and you have to let them go. My first A race, I got black flagged. I literally waited as long as I could, and there was still a car that was 20 seconds behind me that had just come out of the pits, and I got black flags for him. They have got to fix it. First of all, they need to put another lap back in the Phoenix caution, because the lucky dog should get to pit. But even when you're not the lucky dog, all the lap cars that are having to go back, they're just about almost every time having to delay the green, because a car that has come out of the pit lane with the pace car right behind it is not going to get back to the field. And in real life, those cars don't get to go in front of the lap cars. They stay in the back. And they've got to fix that. It's just crap, and it's been that way since they've had cautions. Just about it needs to be fixed.
Amen. All right, Bobby Jonas.
I think we all can guess what I'm about to say about Phoenix. They've got to do something to improve the racing at some of these tracks with track limits, the road courses, Phoenix. Look, not everything we do follows real life. Some of it is done on purpose to make the racing better. I think it's time that we put limits in at Phoenix. Maybe give you a groove to cut down, but that's it. Any more than that, you're going to get whacked. It's ruining the racing. I mean, most of these races, I think we were yelling a caution every 1 to 2 laps. It's ridiculous.
So I would love to see them go ahead and do what the Coke Series did with cautions.
Yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to that.
Single file.
Not everything we do is accurate to real NASCAR or real racing in any series.
Well, they don't even enforce the double yellow line rule at Daytona. You're actually legal to pass down there as long as you don't cause a
As long as you don't
impact
cause
to
a
the
wreck.
track. Yeah.
And so far, both the incidents I've been in is guys have been cutting below the track causing wrecks.
Yeah, but I can there when you set a boundary, there's no way for the game to understand whether or not you willfully went down there or if you got pushed down there. That I can somewhat understand it, like a Daytona or a Talladega.
Well, I mean, make it like Talladega Daytona. Then if you come back up and cause a wreck, then you're getting penalized.
And that actually did happen in one of my first day opens. That this guy, he went down there not just running the regular cut line, but he almost spun out, and so he went further left than the entire rest of the groove, and then came back up at the wrong angle, and just slammed me into the wall. And the protest did go through.
I mean, I had the thought today as I was sitting in the car sideways on the track. Next time somebody cuts down there and comes across my nose, I'm just going to launch them into the next corner. I don't care anymore.
Whoops. All right. Brad Wren, final thought.
Week 13. So looking forward to a little bit of a break. We'll have NIS next week, but that's fine. So gonna actually take and mess with my monitors a little bit. I've got the left sides are starting to sag again. So some of the pictures that Bobby put up when he redid his rig, I'm gonna change the way that my brackets are on the track racer I've got, and I ended up picking up the track racer base mounts, the adjustable ones, and I currently have the SimLab ones. And the issue I have with the SimLabs is no matter what I do, that they're just not tight. So if I bump the monitor, it'll shift and whatnot. So I'm gonna take and kind of pull everything down Saturday, I think, this week, and kind of put it back together, and hopefully everything will be done and it'll be nice and tight, and I won't have to worry about this anymore. So that was kind of the week 13 project. I redid all my cabling and stuff a couple weeks ago, so I was happy with that. But yeah, looking forward to week 13. Get a little bit of break, do a little bit of cleanup around here, and get ready for the new season. So
It reminds me of my Obuto triple monitors. The left and right monitors sag so much that if I took the monitor mount behind the monitor and turned it upside down, it would actually gain a inch of height to get it a little bit closer so they did sag. But yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah, the Obuto, that was painful living with that. I mean, no matter what you did, you couldn't get it right.
All right, Donnie Spiker, final thought.
Yeah, I got the DDU Brad got. I got it installed as soon as I got it, and he's kind of helped me. If I had any questions on setting up, it's pretty simple through SimHub. But if I haven't got the rev lights working yet, so I'll probably be asking you, Brad, more about that. Been running this super late model race. It's been a shit show. It is what it is. Short track at Hickory, and all they're doing is wrecking.
Yeah, let's hook up over the weekend, Donnie. I hope you get the LEDs up.
Oh yes, sir. And I got to figure out these pedals. Might have made a mistake going into this beta phase with this programming. I got to see if I can roll it back to the old program or just suffer with what we're doing right now.
You're talking about the SimCoach's beta software release.
Yeah, I didn't pay attention. I just went to their Discord and installed the program without really thinking what it was. I just thought it was going to be a new program. Granted, it's beta. This is actually the first beta thing I've ever done in my life, so I'm not very computer savvy. So whenever I have any kinks in any system when it comes to the computer, I go into a slight panic filled with anxiety.
I won't leave Visor until they've really got it locked in a little bit better.
Yeah, I did play with it today. It did. Once I got it set up, I was actually able to fix my pedals a little bit to be a little more consistent, dealing with that throttle issue. I was able to work some of it out.
I think there is something going on with Visor that causes, you mentioned that choppy thing, and I get it when I have iRacing tabbed in, but not when I have iRacing. If I have anything else selected, the choppiness goes away.
Yeah, see, mine did too. When I went to the new software, it went away. The choppiness went away.
Well, if I still run Visor. I just have to have like Discord selected or one of my JRT windows. It has to be focus.
That seems odd. All right, William Westbrook, final thought.
Yeah, so I guess it's kind of a theme, so I'll go through some of the stuff I'd want to see on iRacing's priority list. And most of it obviously is going to do the road. The starts, like Brad's already went through, please give us a proper GC start. I want to see full course yellows and the enduros on road. I think that greatly help in bunching the field back up. And one thing I don't think I've heard anybody talk about, please make it to where we can change vehicles in a test drive session or a hosted session without having to log out, log back in. I was doing kind of testing cars for Sebring coming up, seeing what was feeling good, what I wanted to run, and having to load a new session every time is just beyond annoying. Second, that if I'm running with my team and my team wants to get in a hosted session, we'd have to do a hosted session for each car. I understand in officials, practice, whatever, I understand there's reasons you probably don't want to make that an option, but it makes no sense to me, especially in test drive, but in private.
Imagine it's a league race or a hosted race or something, or one of our special events, and you accidentally pick the wrong car.
Right.
Oh,
You're SOL.
Yeah, I've done that before. I've done that before because, again, I thought, well, it's my default car. I ran this one last time, and you don't look, and you immediately go ahead and join, and then you load in, and you're in the wrong car.
And you can't withdraw and come back in with a different car at that point.
Yeah, no, William, I do the same thing. I mean, a lot of times I'll jump into just self-test by myself, but it's super frustrating. It's just like, especially if you try to go into officials, it's like, okay, I've used up all the Americans, so now I'm into a German server or I'm into an Australian server just so that I can try a different car.
All right, and then my final thoughts. I hear all the struggles of different brake pedal problems people have, and I'm thinking, man, I'm looking forward to my Moza active pedals. I am so going to buy those. Take my money. That's the next thing I'm going to buy. Look, there's nothing wrong.
Whoa. Have we seen a single review yet?
We haven't, but look, as long as they say it works, I'm going to buy it.
Yeah, but we said these things, like all our pedals, we're saying they worked when they started. Like, you can't just assume that you're not going to have brake pedal issues because.
Yeah, I think you just set yourself up for failure there.
Knock on wood.
And in the chat, he likes to try to actually dog it. Well, it seems like sim coaches is always messing up. That's because half of us own sim coaches. It's called an observation bias. And let me tell you what they do when something goes wrong, though. You don't have to send them an email, wait 2 days, and then ship it to Germany, wait 3 weeks to get your shit back. My pedal, the only reason it took longer for me to get it back was because UPS sucks when the weather gets bad.
Your UPS guy was lost.
They wouldn't come up here. They waited for 3 days. It was supposed to arrive on Friday and they didn't get it till Tuesday. But I 2-dayed it to them. They got it on Wednesday and shipped it back out on Wednesday, and it should have been back on Friday. I mean, so.
But in fairness, a lot of us do put heavy mileage on our stuff too.
Oh yeah, crazy mileage, and they found the flaw. I mean, it was just one issue that had been going on for a long time, and had kind of sort of temporarily gotten it fixed by adjusting a nut for a while, and then they also sent me a free replacement sensor that I was able to put in myself, and that worked for a while. And then over time, as they continue to get more people reporting the problem, they found that it's the bearings that were wearing out. And that's not something, especially when you're building stuff with CNC and not mass producing stuff, that's something that's not going to show up until you wear a few of them out. So I'm sorry, but Sim Coaches is the best pedal. They are an awesome project.
Okay, Greg, you're back. A final thought.
I was kind of disappointed last week. I didn't run any more races at COTA. I just couldn't bother myself to go and do it, which is kind of sad on my part, considering I love the road courses. But I did enjoy what we did kind of get out of the Monza race on Saturday. I don't know if David, if I wasn't around, but I don't know if you talked about it. But it wasn't too bad. I feel like we've got a long way to go to be competitive in some of that. Those guys are really good, and we just need to get a little bit better. Yeah, so week 13, I guess it's find another game week and enjoy the updates that we do get in Race NIS when we can.
All right, and then back to my final thought. Yeah, looking forward to the Moza active pedals, hopefully soon. Also looking forward to the Sim Gaming Expo. And look, if you guys are committing to go, let us know on social media. We got to get some momentum for this guy. We got to get everyone to sign up and everyone to go, and it's going to be a great thing for our community, at least here in the United States. So if you're listening to this and you're within range, try to meet us there. Try to go. With that, we'll see you on the track. Later. All right, title ideas. We have 3.
3.
Number
Phoenix.
3, for sure. Leave Arizona in there because it makes more sense that way.
Yeah, 3.
Donnie, William.
Phoenix,
I'll
Arizona.
take 3. Sorry.
Yeah. Phoenix.
So we were talking about how the real drivers don't go over the apron as much
The dog leg.
because it ruptures their spleen.
Yeah, once it gets going, yeah, they're single file for the most part, running the
Yeah, the
regular-
only one that they were talking about constantly doing, like he did it like once every 5 laps, was Chase Elliott.
I was cutting it, when I was by myself on the track because it's just a half second faster.
Yeah, but on the sim, though, like I said, you don't have that penalty you do in real life.
And in real life, you don't see a whole lot of carnage going through there, which you probably should. But when you watch it in person and they're coming at you, it's freaking incredible that they can fan out the way they do and nobody ever wrecks. But they're not iRacers. They're not the freaking people we deal with.
They also have accurate information coming in from a spotter, not car low, car high, car high.
I'm
Well,
off, guys.
They'll tell them how far off the wall they are, right?
Yeah, but typically, when you hit things in iRacing, it doesn't hurt. You did what that guy did to me today in real life. It's going to hurt. It'll leave a mark.
All right, good show, guys.
Yes, sir. You guys have fun.
Donnie, let's hook up over the weekend. We'll get your LEDs up.
Yes, sir. I got the lovely lovely dash. Everything's going good on the dash, just the LEDs. I did install that AT Sim. I believe that's what it was. Okay.
Yep.
I just don't have their plug-in. I think that's what I'm missing.
If you install that, if you go to the Discord, you need to install the plug-in, and then you should be able to. Then you need to install the LED profile. So if you go under the devices in there, you should find your DDU, and you just have to adjust the. Let me try sending you. I exported my settings. I'll send you that to you through Messenger. See if you could import that. That may help you.
Okay, yeah, when I go through the actual device itself, it wants me to use it as a generic vCore. The device doesn't come up.
So yeah, vCore for the screen, but then the LED should show up under the hang on, let me load some up. Arduino is where the LED should show up.
Okay, yeah, I'll get them to show up and I'll get them to activate on SimHub, but not onto the device itself.
Let me see if I can. I exported my profile, so
Later, boys.